The LGBT community have been subject to debate since, well, forever. But what is that experience like in 2021? I decided to sit down with some members from the community all across the UK to discuss their experiences and to see how things have truly changed. My name is Sam Liddell, and in this documentary, it's all coming out.
Could you talk me through kind of your experience of like discovering you were gay and your coming out experience and the emotions that you felt and like how you told people and things like that, just kind of like from the start to where you are now?
I was going to say, where do I start? Why, the first time I heard the word gay, I suppose I was in primary 5, which would have made me like 8 or 9, and I got called gay, and I was like, what? Like, I mean, I don't know what that means. Then from there, it was just sort of like I never really had an interest in girls. It's like, but it was that constant battle, I guess, of why don't I have an interest in girls? Like, what's going on? Like, that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, like when I was growing up, being gay wasn't something that was as widespread as it is now in the public.
So when I first came out, I came out quite young, like compared to like other people. I think I was like 13, 12, something like that. And I, like, the process of me realising that I wasn't straight to coming out was quite a short period.
I think, was I 14? It's maybe 14 or 15. And it started off weird. Like, I didn't like to talk about it much, and I said, oh, I'm bisexual. I think I like girls a lot more. And now that's not the case. And it's just a gradual process that I just work through it, and it's good now. I'm completely confident in myself, but yeah, it takes time.
Probably when I was around 17, I started to think about, because like when I went to college and I was around more people of the community, it kind of helped me to realize and have the thoughts of, like, when I was younger, I kind of always had it in the back of my head and kind of just, don't know, I just wanted to push it away, because I just felt like, because of the way the media was and people's opinions, I was like, it's not right, it's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I met more people that I realised, oh no, this is normal, this is fine, it's just me, it's just who I am.
You kind of like talk yourself out of it a lot. It's like, I'm fine, like, I'm just really feminine, like, there's a lot of like, you've really got to just like accept it.
I think I was like 7, maybe 8, and I realized that I wasn't like the other boys. I enjoyed doing a lot of things that were like traditionally feminine, playing a lot of feminine games, playing feminine roles in games, like in house. But it took me a while to realize it, because I was just very afraid of coming out, because I live in a very masculine society where I live, because it's obviously Welsh with the minors and that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I realised I was gay actually, and looking back when I knew I was, are different, because the same way straight people have silly crushes that don't mean anything when they're like 6 or something, I'd have them, but for other boys. It didn't mean anything. So that was in year 1. But but before that, I had a girlfriend in reception, and that was my first and last girlfriend. Thank you, Emily, Queen.
I never realised that what I felt towards people was different to what other people thought. I always thought that like it was just normal. People started to like, you know, call each other gay, lesbians and stuff like that, and everyone was like, the hell's that? And I was introduced to material at a young age, adult material, by friends. That conversation of like what lesbians were, I was like, oh, I think that's me. No one brought up the word bisexual ever, just gays and lesbians. So I thought, I like girls, I must be a lesbian. So I remember being in my room crying my eyes out because I thought I was a lesbian.
It only like started to like really like flare up once like puberty started, and then I started like seeing Natasha going, and I was like, I need to do something about this. So like a few years back, I told my parents that I wanted to transition, and it didn't go down so well. And because I was so young and I was really scared, I like kind of just like backtracked and said like, look, I'm fine, let's just leave it. But like now it's just been building up for too long. So
In terms of family, I'm not sure if they know or not. Like, it's not something I've openly discussed with my parents. Not living there, it's not something that really matters. Like, my dad was always quite homophobic, so that was obviously quite a tough one to try and even consider, based on how he would react. My mum, she'd be fine with it. She's talked about it and hinted at it, but it's not something I've openly said, by the way, I'm gay. But the people I did come out to willingly, like, they accepted me straight away. They were like, well, we know who you are. Like, it makes no difference to us. So I was quite lucky with the friends group that I have now, like, accepting me and just getting on with it as normal. But when I was at school, like, being outed, it was horrible. Like, that was a very, very, very low point, because it was something that was used against me.
I made the realisation, then came out maybe a month later. So like the way I came out to my brother first, because I knew he wouldn't care. And then I put it on my Snapchat story because I was like, I don't want to have the conversation with lots of different people. I want to make it as short as possible. So I just put it on my story. I was like, guess who's back? It's me. And then I told my mum, then I told my dad. So like when I put it on my story, like everyone was like, oh yeah, happy for you. But like I had a different, like not a bad experience with my family, but a different one to how my friends would react, because obviously they're a bit older. Like I asked them not to ask any questions, but my dad was kind of like, how do you know? Like, have you ever kissed a girl or anything like that? Which is fair enough, you know.
Funnily enough, all of the boys at school knew I was gay before I did, because they kept calling me. But no, I realised when I was probably like 12, 13, that's when I put a word to it. It was never really something I personally struggled with. I mean, other people struggled to comprehend it, but I didn't.
I went into school with like no friends apart from one anyway, because I was like really quiet and shy and I didn't talk to anyone. And then because I was like the first person in my year to be outed as anything, so then everyone was like, oh my god, what? Why is there a bi person? And all the girls like in PE, they're like, oh my god, don't look at me, you're gonna have a crush on me. And I was like, no. And they would be calling me slurs left, right and centre, and I was like 11.
Well, friends, like from day one, like never like said anything bad or negative or anything, and they were supportive. And then like my family as a whole in general were as well. But yeah, you just have shame about yourself, because you're like, I don't know how this person will react to this and stuff like that. But as you get older, you start to not care more.
I came out to my mum in year 7 as well. She was fine with it. She had like nothing bad to say about it, and she's always been fine with it. Probably because it's kind of obvious that I am, because I never really was like, oh my god, boys, only like famous people. I never really came out to my dad. I just kind of started talking about girls in front of him and just like dropping hints until he kind of just picked it up.
I think I first told my cousin when we were on holiday in a caravan in West Wales, and the star that she's literally named a Welsh word for star. She gave me some makeup and some clothes to help me explore myself. And then she just helped build me up. And then I told my parents on the day of my birthday, so they weren't allowed to get mad with me. And then I ran off to school. And I basically just got my parents and friends to tell everybody, so it's so much easier.
So, from my understanding, because I'm still kind of like, what's the difference? But from my understanding, pansexual is you'll date any gender and you don't have a preference. But bisexual, you'll date two or more genders, but you have a specific preference. Like some people will prefer girls, some people will prefer boys, some people will prefer non-binary people. But pansexual is just like, I don't really care.
Bisexuality would be like just not having a preferred gender. Not having a preferred gender that you like fancy. You'd fancy like a male, female, and non-binary people. It doesn't matter who you fancy really.
So non-binary is part of the trans umbrella term. So there's many different identities such as gender fluid and all that good stuff. So non-binary is where you don't necessarily identify with anything, male or female. You're just kind of there. And a lot of people think that pronouns equate to gender, but you can be non-binary and still go by she, her, or he, him. Nothing really defines whether you are. And a lot of people think you have to be androgynous to be non-binary, which you don't. You can look like whatever. And I realised I was non-binary when sometimes I felt more feminine, sometimes I felt more masculine, and then sometimes I was just like, I'm not anything. And then when I learned what that term meant, it just fit me perfectly, because I feel like gender is very fluid. Even for people that aren't trans or identify with another gender, it can be fluid for anyone. But it's the most comfortable label I've found with myself, and the pronouns they, them are what fit me best and make me feel most comfortable.
Being non-binary is either the lack of a gender identity or a label for an identity which may not fit the binary of man or woman. For me personally, I feel as though I fit into neither. I don't identify with traits of women and I don't identify with men. Personally, I don't want to be restricted by a gender, by roles somebody else has chosen for me. One day somebody would have chosen for all boys to have short hair, and over time we've followed that. But I don't want to live my life having been conditioned by outdated societal norms. I'm an individual.
So queer is a word that we kind of adopted back that used to be used like against the community. That it's kind of like an umbrella term for like being LGBTQ+. So like someone like me might use the label as queer because they don't identify with another label or don't feel comfortable identifying as that label. So it's just a good umbrella term if you don't want to put a straight label on yourself and fall under one bracket. But like I feel very comfortable like that, either just saying I'm not labelled, I'm just queer, because I can just be whoever I want and date whoever I want and not have to back it up with a identity.
I started watching more YouTube and kind of being more in touch with influencers and stuff. So I then had people like older people talking at me about these things as well, and like as well saying like it's okay, and like I started like noticing that all these movements and stuff were a thing, and then I realized I heard the word bisexual and I found out what it meant and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's what I am. That's a thing that I can be. That's cool.
We're getting more representation now. There's still a long way to go. I remember when I watched Sex Education and spoiler guys, Adam told one of the other characters that he was bi, and I literally just sat and cried because I'd never seen bi representation in anything before, and I was like, oh my god, what? There's a bi character. I feel like we're definitely getting more representation, but we need more bisexual people, lesbians, gay people, trans people, non-binary people, and like instead of just making it like the big plot of it, like the big plot twist, like, oh my god, someone's gay, it should just be like a normal thing.
A lot of trans actresses would only get roles like as like hookers and stuff like that, and they get murdered, and like it was just a lot of like, it just wasn't cute. But obviously now it's completely changed. Like we've got people like Laverne Cox who were on Orange Is the New Black. So I think obviously there's still like ways to go. We've still got like a bit to go, but like we're doing better.
Well, I feel like as a queer woman, it's definitely sexualized a lot. Like things like, oh, you can have a threesome. Like when I was like out, like anyone who's out as bi or pan, it's like, oh, you're more likely to cheat, or you can have a threesome with me, or it's like, oh, you've got a girlfriend, kiss in front of us, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like something that sticks out in my head, it wasn't like the media, but it was something that happened in London. Like a woman was sat with a girlfriend, and then these lads were like, oh, kiss in front of us because it's fit, and they didn't, and then they got beat up. And they were like beat up. Like I remember specifically seeing that in the news and being scared, because I was like, well, can I go out and sit with my girlfriend, hold my girlfriend's hand, go walking around Borough?
There's papers that are obviously hostile, like The Sun or the Daily Mail or something, which, I mean, they've shifted their attention away from gay people recently towards trans people, and a lot of it's quite manufactured. They'll find one trans 5-year-old or something, and then portray it as every single child is wanting to change their gender now, which, I mean, there wouldn't be a problem anyway if they wanted to, but they hype up issues to create a sort of moral panic among people.
So when it's Elliot Page, isn't it? When he came out as trans, it was like Elliot Page, formerly known as dead name. I was like, you don't, everyone knows who it is. Like, it's stuff like that, like little things. It's like they'll dead name someone that comes out as trans, or they'll get someone's pronouns wrong. Like if someone's talking about Sam Smith, they won't use they, them. They'll say that they're a he when they're not. Like little stuff like that just needs altering, which will make us feel more accepted.
I can't imagine legislation going much further for trans people, because it would be political suicide, given that newspapers are galvanizing people against them so much for nothing, really.
The British press has been extremely transphobic. They write articles debating my life almost daily at this point. Knowing that kind of influence is out there demonizing you really hurts. You have a lot of people who say this stuff openly when they're allowed to have consequences for actions, say tweeting on Twitter. They get some form of criticism. They scream about how they're cancelled on their front page newspaper while being on daytime TV.
Until we get like more people from each community into more media positions, like higher level media positions, then we can start having more representation within the media and making sure everyone feels accepted.
There was recently a show about a trans child on BBC, which honestly warmed my heart. And even like the background of my Zoom thing, which is the drag race thing, they've had a first trans male drag queen this year, which opens up a lot of realities for people who are extremely talented but never got that chance.
They obviously have a lot. I think religion being taken out of the equation, we would have been a lot further along than we are now in everyone's journey. Journeys of other people accepting us accepting ourselves, us accepting each other. I think religion being taken out of that would have made a massive positive impact, I think.
My auntie that married in, she's Mormon, and like her dad was like the head of the Mormon thing. So when her daughter came out to her, she was very like, that's wrong, very standoffish and stuff. But now she has a girlfriend. Like my auntie has a girlfriend and stuff. So it's kind of developed over that, and she's kind of unlearned the stuff that she was taught before.
Yeah, like I would say since religion was such a big thing, especially with the Troubles, like they're obviously like identity within religion was like really important, so people didn't throw away religion as easily, and that just slowed down the whole liberating process, I guess. Yeah.
Because they say in the Bible that it says a man shouldn't sleep with another man, but actually said a man shouldn't sleep with another boy, so it's talk about paedophilia. And I definitely think religion slows it down, because you can see it like all over the world that the LGBT community isn't accepted. Like, we're criminals in 74 countries in the world.
Yeah.
And you just see like what happens in like America, England, well, all over, the impact that religious people have on the LGBT community. And it's not all of them, obviously. It's just a small part, but I definitely think that religion has a part to play in it.
And obviously with ushers as well, like someone asked them to do a cake for a gay wedding, and since a lot of like church denominations, I think it is, like fund ushers, and they're like a Christian organization, even though they're just supposed to be baking cakes, refused them, and the people who asked for the cake actually took them to court.
My parents actually use, well, my mother at least, who's pagan, use it to explain it to her, because in Wicca and Druidism is very much about nature, and the very core aspect of nature is change, which really helped to come to terms with it.
Oh, interesting. So in this case, religion actually helped her understand that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen a lot of hatred from religion, but I've also seen more acceptance as like time goes on. I've seen quite a few people saying, "Oh, I'm a Christian," and like this is fine with me. I actually was talking about this last night with my friend Marshall, because he's a Christian, and he was going through like the Bible with us and what different views for gay people is like, and he also thinks as a Christian that things from the Bible are taken out of context to make it seem like being gay is a bad thing, and people have just like run with it instead of, because he said personally for him the Bible's up for interpretation, and because people think that, they've just run with it and just developed homophobia over the years and started spewing hate. But I've seen more acceptance lately, but there's still a lot of work to be done with people blaming religion on the reason why they don't accept people, because it's always like, oh, God loves everyone, until it's a gay person or a trans person or someone who's bi or doesn't like conform to gender norms.
When I was younger, I went to church, Sunday school. It was Presbyterian church, and it was really pushed on us from a young age that it is man and woman, and that sexuality is a sin. I think like when I was growing up, that really played on my mind a lot. I sort of grew away from religion getting older. That's not something I really follow to the day. I think when I was younger, it probably influenced my decision to sort of try and not even accept myself as gay, because it's a sin.
Yeah, absolutely not. Mainly because of what our lovely Prime Minister has publicly said and not apologised for. And it's like, if you look at the impact that he had when he called women that wear burqas and hijabs letterboxes, the rise in Islamophobic hate crime, it rose after he said that. So what effect could he have if he said something wrong about queer women or trans men or trans women or non-binary people? What effect would he have on that? So like there's definitely certain places that I go that have to be alert all the time. Like I'm like, oh, I can't mention the fact that I'm not straight, or I could get beat up because I don't feel safe.
I'd say that I personally feel safe. I like in my own personal experience, I would feel safe. But I know that a lot of other people in the community wouldn't.
I mean, yes, but that is because in London we have a Labour government and a very pro-mayor. So, yes, in that sense, but I'm sure if you're in other parts of the country, you probably don't.
currently, I feel safe and I feel privileged to be in the country I am, with the government I have, because obviously other countries have it so much worse than us. So in a way, I feel like I'm really lucky. And when through applying for jobs and going to colleges and schools and stuff, I've had to fill out paperwork that helps them be inclusive. So I know things are being put in place for us, and I really do appreciate that. So currently, because I've seen everything happening, I do feel okay. The future's a different thing.
There was an article that I saw about making trans a disability, making gay a disability, and like this, and how long it's taken for trans people to get the medication that they need and be able to change the name and get a new passport and get a new ID to make themselves feel comfortable in who they are, not who they've chosen to be, who they are.
Not too safe, because I mean, like we've seen recently with the whole hormone blockers thing, and they're trying to like take that away from us. I think that's more of an issue for trans kids and trans teens, because like they don't want to go through that puberty that they were born with. So like, come on, like it's gonna kill people. Like,
yeah.
No, I know for a fact that our government do not care even about like the rest of us. They only care about a specific group of people, which is rich white men. There's obviously, if you've seen, Boris Johnson literally does not care about trans lives at all, and he wants to make it harder for them, which is ridiculous considering the amount of stress and pain they're in already, especially with getting like surgery. Like they have to go through so many appointments, so many waiting lists, and they shouldn't have to go through 5 doctors before they can even get like on the waiting list. It's absolutely ridiculous, and they're just making it harder for people. And although we do have rights to marry, and we can like go down the street without getting beat if we're lucky, I still think that they just don't care enough about people and their safety.
I don't think I would feel safe under either government right now because of both the Conservatives' openly transphobic nature and the current Labour government's almost closeted transphobia. We have some MPs who are openly transphobic, like Rosie Duffett, but even Keir Starmer says that trans rights aren't important and they shouldn't focus on them.
I live with someone who did vote Conservative mainly for Brexit, and like when they told me that they were going to, I was like, you don't understand how much this is going to affect my life, because we have no control over the government because we're not old enough to vote yet. So we have to live with the consequences of this government, even though we didn't choose them, which annoys me.
Because over half of the MPs didn't vote for marriage equality, so
yeah.
And only in 2019, marriage equality was achieved across the whole United Kingdom in Northern Ireland.
Well, the 2 biggest political parties in Northern Ireland at the moment are Sinn Féin, which is quite left, and DUP, which is very right. And it's like Sinn Féin, like it didn't really have like a big influence in Stormont here until I think it was last year. And so obviously now, like I think things are turning because DUP is very, very conservative and they don't want gay rights, and I don't know, I don't feel safe with them. But Sinn Féin obviously becoming more and more popular. I think things are getting better, yeah.
It makes me feel very isolated and very, very outcast as someone who's deeply passionate about politics, knowing that the only 2 chances of government do not like you, do not want you to exist even. It hurts, honestly.
I don't trust them at all, especially because of the core beliefs of the Conservative Party. It scares me. When they got voted in, it scared me. It did. think everyone's kind of experiencing it at home a little bit, but like I'm very lucky to have such a supportive family that I'm out to. But there's also just like like, say if there's like a gay couple kissing on TV, they'll be like, oh, there's no need for that. But if it was a straight couple, they wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But then I don't think they realise that is homophobic, and that hurts me because it hurts my community.
Growing up, I had a really, really high-pitched voice. And so from day one, like, people always were like, oh, gay boy, like, oh, are you gay? Oh, like, just, like, always teasing and making you, like, hate that view even before you understood what it meant.
Society is in general quite accepting now. I still don't really feel I feel fine holding my straight best friend's hand, or straight by her hand in public. I don't feel self-conscious at all about that, but I don't feel comfortable holding my boyfriend's hand, or ex-boyfriend, his hand in public. I never felt comfortable doing that. And that can feel, even though you know inside you're probably making a big deal out of nothing, it can be quite suffocating at times, not being able to be yourself completely in public.
Have you ever had to have a secret date, feel unable to express yourself, or pretend to be someone you aren't for 18 years? If you're straight, I imagine most of the answers are no. But liking a person isn't a choice. The LGBT community, I feel, has to look out for itself.
And I think it's important to just say, like, just because you're not gay doesn't mean you shouldn't, like, think about how you think about gay people, and, like, get rid of all those, like, toxic things that the world told you and then you told yourself, you know?
I've definitely seen a lot of discrimination in the community for certain labels. It's with non-binary people, a lot of the time it is, you look too much like a girl, you look too feminine, you look too masculine, you need to be more androgynous, you need to look a certain way, you need to present yourself in a certain way. When clothes, makeup, hair, how you present yourself doesn't equate to gender, because you can be a cis male and wear a skirt and the entire world like applauds you. Which I don't think that's bad, because cis men wearing more feminine clothing definitely pushes toxic masculinity away. But it's not fair when people that are cis get praised for it, yet trans people get absolutely tortured for it. Like when trans men wear makeup, it's like, oh, but you want to be a boy, why are you wearing makeup? But then there's male makeup artists and they get absolutely praised for like breaking the norms.
I found myself not being gay enough for the lesbians and not being straight enough for the straight people. So I was in this like really weird thing, and even a lot of people in the community don't even understand themselves what bisexuality is, and the fact that it can be 50-50.
I've seen quite a few lesbians as well that have been extremely biphobic. There's been a lot of them that have been like, oh, I'm not going to date a girl that's bi because they're greedy or they're more likely to cheat, or I just can't trust them and stuff like that. And I think most people feel comfortable with labels, and that's okay, but not everyone. You don't need to feel the pressure of putting a label on yourself. If you don't know what you are you still discovering, or you just don't want to, then don't force yourself.
I've experienced this myself, like when I've been talking to bisexual men, like they see us trans women as like best of both worlds. Like we're not. Like we might have certain parts that are the other gender, but like I'm not that. I'm not both. Like I'm a woman.
One most common, even it's a very backhanded compliment, but you hear it with trans women quite a lot, which is, you look pretty good for a trans girl or trans woman. And there's also been a rise in like infantilizing trans men, which is quite honestly disgusting. It makes it the arguments that transphobes use all the more prominent.
I feel like the school system as well, they're always like anti-bullying and have so many assemblies about it, but when it comes to it, they've never really done anything. My school, for some reason, outed kids a lot. Like if they found out that you were part of the community or you told them in confidence, they were known to ring people's parents about it or family, and that's really dangerous. I think I used to be friends with a boy who was trans, and he was out to a few people, close friends, and I'm not sure whether he told teacher or they found out, but they actually rang his and they found his binder, cut it up and sent him back to...
Wow,
Yeah.
that's intense.
I've reported 2 hate crimes in the last year. But I think the most horrifying thing I haven't actually reported because I didn't think anybody would believe me. I was walking down the corridor from my biology class, and somebody who was in my lessons, who I saw daily, went up to me, grabbed my chest, and said, "It's okay, because you're tranny in it."
So sorry that's happened to you.
And I just froze on the spot. I stood there for about 5 minutes before a teacher found me, and I couldn't tell what happened.
I'm really sorry, that's awful.
Yeah.
Do you think there needs to be more punishment for transphobia, and do you think that the police and the government are doing enough to tackle hate crimes?
I think we should focus more on education than anything else, because punishment would just ingrain that bigotry further into them, in my opinion.
Right, okay.
I think actually coming out to both groups of straight friends I had at my secondary school and in my college, that was quite good, because they didn't care at all. In fact, we made us closer friends actually, which was quite a relief.
Honestly, like probably Twitter, because there is a lot of homophobia on Twitter, a lot of homophobia, especially when it comes to Pride Month and stuff like that, and it makes me feel really like crap. But during Pride Month, the amount of people that I see coming out and the support for everyone that's like being like happy Pride and stuff like that is just so overwhelming. Like, so I think social media has a very good influence on seeing a positive side, especially for like people who are trying to figure out how to come out or are trying to figure out what their sexuality is. There's so much stuff you can find on social media that just makes you feel like you're part of something.
Yeah.
Like, because it's easy to say it's a community, but then you never meet anyone that's part of it, and it's just like, yeah, but it actually is a community, because we know struggles that everyone is going to have, or everyone's going to have a feeling of, so we can help each other. I think that's just amazing, the fact that we're all willing to help and willing to like make change and do stuff like that.
And it's always fun to bully a homophobic person, you know.
Always.
I think the best story I have is when I went to Cardiff Pride the year before last, and I got separated from my friends, and there was older man following me.
Yeah.
And a bunch of, I don't know if they were like a club or something, but a bunch of like middle-aged lesbian women formed a wall around me, and I just felt so safe in that.
That's a good story. I love that.
I only recently came out as non-binary to most of my friends, but when I came out to the college group chat, for some reason I was just like, I'm just gonna get it like over and done with, because there's no point in me hiding for like 2 years of my life if I'm gonna be friends with everyone. Everyone was surprisingly really nice, because I barely knew anyone and I just came out with it. Especially my friend group as well. They are the most supportive people ever.
Honestly, like with my job, I see a lot of people. Like I basically people watch for a living, and we've had quite a few people last summer and the summer before, like openly gay couples walking through holding hands, and I just look at that and I'm like, that's nice. I enjoy seeing that. It's not something I would have seen growing up. Like it's something that you would have had to be careful with doing in public. But like that, to show that there's that level of acceptance in today's society, that they can openly do that and not be worried about being beaten up. Like, it's really nice to see. That makes me really proud.
I'd tell them that you know who you are, you know what you like and you know what you don't like. No one else does. They'll tell you that they do, and they'll say that you need things and proof to feel what you feel, but you don't. Your feelings are your feelings. You're in your head and no one else is. So you need to go with it and not doubt it 1 second. And I think that would have helped me feel better earlier on if I didn't listen to people who were like telling me what I do and do not like.
Take your time. Take your time, because I'm happy that I came out when I did, but I felt like I had to. When you don't have to. You can do it whenever, however you want to. So all I'd say is take your time, think about who you are, become who you are. I wouldn't change anything else, because I'm glad about the journey that I have. All I would say is breathe, take your time, do it how you want to do it, not how the world wants you to do it.
I'd tell her to like be proud of it, because I did have a phase where like I pretended it didn't existed for a while, and like I tell myself like don't do that. There's no need to do that. Like just accept it, and the quicker you accept it, like accept it yourself, the quicker you can kind of like move on to another problem.
I'd first warn her that you're gonna go through a lot, so like brace yourself. And then like also like when it comes to the whole like being comfortable in yourself, like take it at your own pace. Do not try to rush, because the rushing's only going to be damaging towards you. Like obviously you've got to like do it to be happy, but you've also got to think about like, are you in a safe environment to do all of this stuff?
Don't be afraid to accept who you are, because the waiting list is 3 years. You want to get on that as soon as possible.
I would tell little Megan that, especially once you get out of school, literally nothing matters. If you just get through that, that's like probably the worst part. That's over, because young kids are so judgmental. And once you get out of there, you'll be fine. And to just like, I was so scared of being myself in school. Like I literally put myself back in the closet. I would just tell myself, it doesn't matter. You're in a schooling red car. You are so much better than those people.
I'd tell them just not to push your emotions down and not try to hide who you are, and just kind of accept who you are and not feel afraid to just be yourself.
Don't give up, really. Like it's a very difficult time coming to terms with everything, like very mentally draining. But obviously I got through it barely. But I'm here. Like the world does become a better place. Like people become more accepting, and it starts with you accepting yourself. That's what you are, and that's who you are. And if other people don't like it, then that's on them. Like you can try and convince them, or you can leave them behind.
I think I'll just be like, literally, it sounds cliche, but don't care about what anyone says, because you find yourself in the end, you know? And why make it harder to take in everything and then beat yourself down again? Like, just take it on the chin, move on. Don't waste your time.
When it came to concluding this documentary, I didn't really know how to do it. Originally I was going to plan a big rant against homophobes, but I mean they're not watching at this point, so what's the point? But as I started in this documentary, I realised that the message wasn't about begging for respect from homophobes, but instead about learning to respect yourself. I feel like it's only... I feel like it's only genuine if I actually share my story. Everyone else has shared theirs. My coming out story is the reason I did this documentary. My coming out story is quite dark. I wrote a suicide note. I was going to take my own life because I couldn't handle these thoughts inside my head, my own sexuality, and what it meant to be who I was. And then my parents found that note. That was difficult for me. And I wanted to make this documentary because if I could help anyone in the community who was going through something similar, then that's what I wanted to do. If you are struggling at the minute, please know that there are people out there to help you and that will support you, and that the community is this giant loving place, and that there are people out there that feel exactly the same way as you. You are not alone. To end, I'd like to end on a quote by Audre Lorde, who was a self-described black feminist lesbian poet. And she once said, "We are powerful because we survived."